Hello, dear friends, and welcome. I wanted to carry on today speaking about the teachings of Thomas Kempis, in particular about the teachings on how to bear with the shortcomings of others. This is chapter number 16 from the book 1 of the Imitation of Christ. Thomas Kempis's masterpiece from 600 years ago, 1424, I think it was published. And I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about it because I spent a fair bit of time with this passage, with this chapter. It taught me really quite a lot. And we all in our lives meet people that we find challenging. Their behavior irks us, challenges us. We may get angry or upset by their behavior, by their shortcomings, and so on. And so Thomas Kempis here actually speaks about how we should bear, how in the best possible way bear with the shortcomings of others. Because it's inevitable that people have shortcomings, all of us. And so, but it's also almost kind of inevitable for us to think that somehow I have shortcomings, but not, maybe I have, maybe I even don't, but the other people have more. They irritate me, you see. And so, how do I bear with their imperfections is the magic and the message of this particular chapter. Again, I use the Imitation of Christ, version by Stephen McKenna, a great Irish translator. He was a writer from last century, and this is by Watkins Publishing. So we're going to read chapter 16, just bits of it, and I will talk about them. It's just over a page long altogether. Thomas Kempis starts by saying that whatever defects a man cannot amend in himself or others, he must patiently bear until God shall otherwise ordain. And one has to reflect that it is better so for the trial of our patience, without which virtue all your merit would be but light. So immediately he starts that in order to bear with the imperfections of others, but in this case of ourselves too, if we cannot amend them in ourselves or others, we must patiently wait for God to ordain otherwise. You see, and this is good to have such trial because it tests us in our patience and helps us develop our patience if we don't have it or if we don't have it sufficiently. And so this is one of the things that we find with Thomas Kempis and any great Christian teachings in general. Development of patience is one of the great virtue on the path. Thomas Kempis speaks a lot about humility and patience, and it is from him that I've managed to pierce through some really thick layers of my resistance, to realize, no, this is the correct way. And I've been trying to be too quick and go from hero to zero in no time at all, from, a sinner to saint in a day. But it didn't work for years. So through studying him and his teachings, it's helped me to soften around my heart and soften those kind of walls that one builds around oneself. So he teaches us patience straight away. And he also says that, we need to entreat God to come to our help in his mercy, so that we may be able to bear our trials with a cheerful heart, you see. So it's a trial, bearing with the imperfections of others. But we still need to be cheerful. There's no point, getting depressed or getting worried, and that can be part of it. But if we pray to God, he will come to our help and help us to bear it with a cheerful heart. He goes on saying that if any person, after being once or twice corrected, still doesn't submit, do not argue with him, but leave that matter to God, who well knows how to turn evil into good, that his will may be done. Again, a beautiful sentence. And again, he emphasizes, yes, you can even speak to people. And if you speak to people, if they're really difficult, and you wait, and you have patience, and then you decide, okay, I'll mention something about it. And if you mention it to people, and that has to be done in a skillful way, of course, in the right way. This was written for monks and nuns, and usually it'd be head monk who would speak, or head nun to speak to somebody, but to try to help them. But if they don't change their ways, then he says, leave everything to God. And God himself knows well how to turn evil into good, you see. So when it pleases him, he will do whatever he wants to do and needs to do, and that will be helpful, and he will correct that person, or he will correct myself, as well. But do not play God. Do not try to sort of attack and speak to them repeatedly and so on and so forth, because you just lose your peace, you just lose your bearings, and the other person has way too much power over you through their actions and so on. One needs to elevate oneself inwardly, and that is done through patience and humility and surrendering to God and allowing God to do what he needs to do to please him. I have noticed over the years, quite often when I wanted to say something to somebody, but I kept my mouth shut, I noticed a number of occasions that in due course the correction would somehow happen in an unexpected way. And that's also happened to me, that people would tell me something and I didn't understand what they were talking about, but in due course I was corrected too, by the circumstances of life, what we call, but ultimately by God himself. And so it's this great value in patience, bearing, waiting, and humility. And then he says, this is a very important point, he says, try to be patient in bearing the defects and weaknesses of others, of whatsoever kind they be, because you too have many faults which others have to bear. So that's our reality. See, that's our reality. This is the crux of the matter here for me, really. It's like, I have many faults. You have to bear them. And it's easier for me to see your faults. That's human condition. We are far sharper in perceiving other people's shortcomings than our own. So, and I'll be much more prone to be thinking, how to correct yours rather than how to correct mine, because I don't really have that, I think, or I'm almost perfect. A lot of us can be very delusional about our own condition. But Thomas Kempis tells us, and many Christian saints have told us, and not only Christian, Buddhists and Hindus and so on, we have many faults. This is our condition. And so that's something we just need to cop to and say, yes, that is true. And then, bearing with imperfections of others becomes more honest and better and easier almost, because I have imperfections myself. So the finger doesn't just point to the other person as it's your fault, you're irking me, and finger always points towards myself too, you see. And that's a great, usually this type of acts, usually for me, they came through humiliation. I was humiliated, you see, by situations of life, and then you gain a little bit of humility through that, through humiliation. That's why I always think the root of the words is probably quite the same, so because the ego doesn't want to be humiliated, avoids it, and tries to be all-knowing. But our truth is actually that we have many faults, and it's good to be aware of it, and gives a fabulous and very important balance to ourselves. So, and then a number of amazing sentences, beautiful, totally practical, but listen to him, listen to this. We like to see others strictly kept in bounds, but we ourselves cannot bear to be corrected. The large liberty that others take annoys us, but we ourselves do not like to be denied anything we ask. See, and he goes on speaking another few sentences of that sort. But yeah, I want you to be in check, you need to be kept in bounds, your behavior, your shortcomings irritate me, and I want you to be mindful of it and told that you shouldn't behave like that. But I, on the other hand, can do whatever I want. I can be as free as I want, and do whatever I fancy. So it's a very, I don't want to be unfree. I want to be free, but you need to be kept in check. That's a human condition. It's very bad, but it's just the truth. But as things are, God has so ordered our lives that we may learn to bear one another's burdens. For there is no one without some faults, no one without some burden, no one sufficient for himself, no one wise enough for himself. We all have to bear with one another, encourage one another, help, advise, correct one another alike. You see. And in this last bit, really, Thomas Kempis really comes into the it's sort of real meat of what is going on here, because he tells you, look, it's God that has ordered so that in our life we need to bear each other's burdens. It is not a personal matter of me and you or any of us, but that's how God has ordered it. So we must do that. We must bear each other's burdens. We must bear each other's crosses. We must help and love each other and care for each other and correct each other. We're not just individuals, who are wandering around the world alone. We all affect each other. We're a community, and we need to, there's no separation in it really. So I'm sorry, you bear my burdens until I realize that I'm burdening you and I change, and vice versa. That's our deal, and it's how God has ordered this life. It's difficult, and he goes on saying, because it is in the time of trial that you will best see how far you have advanced in holiness. You see, we might think we've sort of advanced in holiness a lot, but this type of trial, shortcomings of others, will show us how holy we really are. Because, if we react inappropriately and lose it, So, and the very last sentence is beautiful as well. He says, for difficulties do not make a man weak. They only show what he is. You see, the difficulties do not make you or I weak. The fact that we experience difficulties, that's just difficulties. But in the middle of it, we can see where we're at. And if we are weak, well, that's who we are. And if we are strong, well, that is who we are. They just show you who you are and where you're at. And so, yeah, this was a teaching that really helped me a lot to break through some of my obstacles in actually facing myself, really who I am in my totality. That I'm a nice guy, but I can be a nasty character, you see, and I don't even know it. Our delusional thinking about ourselves is often, can be quite high. So, it's very important that, that we try to bear patiently with each other, love each other, care for each other. It's part of our life on this earth. And if we mention things to each other that this hurts me, please, can you look at that, or whatever, however you do it, people don't change. Leave it to God. He will do what he needs to do to help, you see. And we are not God. We are just workers in his vineyard. And if we leave it to him, it is the safest and the best way. So, with great gratefulness to the wise master Thomas Kempis and his beautiful, beautiful work. And it is not surprising that this work has been beloved work across all Western Christian denominations, including Protestant denominations. This work stands in its purity and beauty, and an emphasis on the highest qualities in human beings and highest virtues in an incredible way. And every time I read it, I comment on it, I feel humbled, and my heart gets touched by this beautiful man, real disciples of our Lord. So I hope, dear friends, that this was helpful to you. I hope, wherever you are, that you're having a beautiful day today. I thank you so much for visiting my channel, and wishing you a wonderful rest of the day, and sending you much love here from Eastern Croatian Plains. Until the next time, thank you.